Hello and welcome to this budget special, Budget and You, brought to you jointly by the MoneyMile and the FirstPost team. This is the last one before the 2019 general election, the first one after GST, and it's always a big event for financial markets. But what we're trying to do over here is just simplify it for you as an investor and an individual and talk about the impact the budget could bring to your savings and investments. Surya is here as well to chat about that. Great year that we've put behind us, Surya, for anyone who's been part of the mutual fund world. But what's the broad setup you feel for the budget this year?
I think it's awesome. The last year gone by, 2017, and even the year starting this year, the last 15 days so gone by, markets have really been supporting. I think I was just reading it off late that the best last few decades, you find the starting of the year going up such a high percentage in terms of how the markets have behaved. But I think if you talk about markets, you had to be really careful from where you really play around the game from here. While you would have taken the bulls by the horn over the last 1 year, but now I think the time is really do your allocations and allocation well. How do you create your asset strategies in times to come? Because if you should look at the last few days, mid caps actually have been under pressure while markets have been going up.
Yeah, selectively the small caps and the mid caps.
So that's why you have to be a little bit careful upon, because I think while markets are going up, the markets are actually getting jittery and seeing the signs of nervousness from here onwards. So it doesn't mean that markets will not do well. I think 35,000 mount scale doesn't mean it stops here. It's surely going to go up from here. But then your risk appetite and your risk capacity is what really determines how much allocation you need to do between the equity asset classes. Because you really see a trend now happening where people are really pushing themselves beyond their own risk capacity. Which is not a good sign. We have been seeing this not off late also for the last few months. And that's something you have to be a little careful upon. And we've been stressing upon to all our listeners is be understanding to your needs and just don't chase returns blindly. But that's what is being happening around, which we don't like. Markets still have a momentum, you can still make good money, but chase returns only at your own risk. If you're a long-term player, you can hold your assets for 6-8 years. At least from here onwards, you can still make good, decent money in the equity markets. Short term, stay away.
So let's try and break this down into what it means for you, because a lot of the jargon that will be thrown at you on budget day will be something that doesn't necessarily translate to direct impact on you, but it might have some broad-based repercussions. First up, taxes. Remember, there's indirect taxes and direct taxes. A lot of the indirect taxes have basically been taken care of by GST. So the expectation is that that entire chunk may not be touched too much, right, Surya? Except that petrol and diesel, which impacts all of us, might actually be brought into the GST ambit. Any impact over there?
We've been hearing about this a lot, but really cannot comment upon this beyond a point because it's very hard because the FMS said very clearly earlier that we will not bring this into the GST ambit. What you also see more murmurs happening around is about the real estate transactions coming into the GST ambit. Now that's something we really don't have an answer on. If it happens, yes, you cannot escape that truth. But it's about wait and watch right now. But I think you just said it very rightly. I think the indirect taxes are actually being summed up by the GST table. And there, I think budget is not a play around, which simply means that they actually are changing the game regularly. The very purpose of the budget, I think that's what this government also realizes this, is just to give you direction. It doesn't mean that you have to change the game altogether on one single day in a year. And that's where the message needs to be given to all the investors, all the retail individuals, as well as corporates, that it's an ongoing event which during the course of the time, they will adjust and change.
But I'm sure anyway for the millennials, the budget isn't as much of a make or break as it is for some of our generation. So let's switch to direct taxes, which basically means what happens to your personal income tax slabs on the one hand, and what happens if you run a company and whether there's any change on corporate taxes. On both, there are expectations of tweaking, relief, broadening bands. So let's talk about personal income tax first, Surya.
See, you had a change in the personal income tax rates last year when the 10% tax rate, which was simply applicable from a 2.5 lakh of income to 5 lakh slab, which was 10% earlier, was tweaked to and brought down to 5%. So now there's a new rate which is 5%, which was earlier 10%. So 5% up to 5 lakhs. Then you have a 20% between 5 and 10 lakhs. And more than 10 lakhs, you have the normal 30% tax slab. It also introduced last year, you have the surcharge of more than 50 lakhs of income, you have a 10%, more than 1 crore, you have a 15%. Now, we don't see this being tweaked too much. We don't see the slabs getting changed a lot. The very endeavor of this current FM, this team would be to make sure how do you widen your tax base?
Yeah.
And that's not been an easy journey for them, and not for them, even for the past governments. I think everyone has been struggling, to say the least. How do I really widen my tax base? And that's been really a thorn that we are just not able to do that. Look at the size of the population of a country has 1.3 billion, and my tax base is hardly anything to boast about. It's just nothing. So how do you really widen the tax base? And that's where the real challenge to this current FM lies. And how do you make sure that you expand that base? Because once you do that, the current taxpayers who are actually now the burdening the complete shoulders on their shoulders, the complete tax payments, they also feel better. How can other people spread out this? So I think that's what we need to see, that we'll do something different.
Yeah, so from a personal taxpayer point of view, what do you think is the more likely thing to expect? That the slabs get tweaked around or that the rates get shifted around?
I think it could be a combination of both, Mitali. We think that they may adjust the rates. They may not increase the rates from here. We don't see this happening for sure. But we do believe that they will try to widen the slab and try to bring in more people, because FM said very clearly, I think that's the cue I'm taking from, that he wants people to pay at least 5% of the taxes, or they have an income between 2.5 to 5 lakhs. And he's spot on when he says this. So the message is very clear.
Yeah.
So besides this, I think to make people also happy, if I think that's the way to put it across, you find the benefits on the Section 80C deduction going up. That could be the likely way I think things will shape up. Current limit is under 80C, you have the limit of 1.5 lakhs.
1,50,000,
So that may actually get increased, and you may see a 2 lakh happening. Interest on housing loan, which is being 2 lakhs right now, you may see a change happening. They may do it 2.5. It doesn't have too much of an impact, but on the lower end of the curve, it really has an impact on the net cash flows. What they have also done smartly was they have removed the benefit on the interest on housing loan on the leased out properties and have capped that also at 2 lakhs. We don't see any change. While there are people believe that the change may do, we don't see a change happening on that front. They may try to give an NPS a push. So the extra reduction of that 50,000 being given to NPS, you may see that being pushed to maybe a lakh of rupee. Medical premiums reduction under Section 80D, that's another benefit which taxpayer gets. It's currently 25,000, and if you have a senior citizen, let's say your parents, you get an additional benefit for the same. So that, I think India does need a push on that front. And 25,000 while covers you well, but with the increasing inflation on the health side, it was 20% last year. You may find that 25,000 also being tweaked and given a push to maybe 30 or 40,000. So I think that typically sums it up where the benefits of a real taxpayer lies, and how he can increase his tax benefit and also simultaneously improve the quality of life.